What's going on, everybody? It's your boy BrianDaddy coming at you with another video. Today we're going to talk about quests, a continuing discussion of the second pillar of a reactive world. Quests in Ashes of Creation are divided into three categories of events, tasks, and narrative quests. What we will talk about in today's video is story arcs, epic legendary quests, server history, events, tasks, PvP quests, daily quests, racial quests, class-specific quests, solo quests, voice acting, Mayoral commissions, escorts, rep, collection quests, quest sponsorships, and other things. So let's get started. All three categories of quests will be available from a variety of local, hidden, and discovered sources, such as bulletin boards and NPC quest givers. Dialogue choices within the quest UI are intended to affect gameplay, such as unlocking side arcs and storylines. So depending on what you choose as a dialogue option will affect, some of your side quests and storylines. And in Alpha 2, questing will be placeholder, so it won't be final, but we will be able to kind of dip our toes into it and give some feedback. Quest Giver. Quest Giver NPCs in Ashes have subtle indicators rather than obvious question marks or exclamations. Quest givers are identified by a green shimmer on their nameplate, and not every quest giver will originate from within a node. Quest markers. There are not going to be obvious quest markers such as question marks or exclamation marks telling players where they need to go. There's going to be subtle ways for players to acquire knowledge that something needs to be done in an area. So, don't expect to have some giant marker telling you exactly what to do, but reading the quest and figuring out where to go will tell you what to do. And that's a good feature, and we need to get back to that, and I will definitely enjoy it. Story arcs. Story arcs are unlocked by multiple types of player activity within each server. Some of those include cultural activity, regional activity, and node progression. Personal or class-based activity as well. It is possible for some storylines to relate to a darker/evil path if a character chooses. Depending on how you react and do your quests and your class stuff, you could change your story, which is pretty neat. If there are too many other major arcs happening at the same time in the same zone, an arc story may need to wait its turn, even if the conditions are right for it to be unlocked. So it might queue up, depending on what's going on in that area. Story arcs drive one or more storyline quests within the game, and story arcs can branch into different stories with multiple endings depending on the quest objectives the players complete during each chapter. The developers will ensure that story arcs in future expansions flow on from existing story arcs, regardless of the different possible outcomes. Story arcs can initiate world events, and there will be a variety of different types of story arc content at different scales, with different cooldowns that suit different types of players for the game. Corrupted resources are variations of resources that are only available in corrupted areas or during certain story arcs. Certain story arcs can be unlocked through a bulletin board system, and certain requirements would need to be met in order to access that quest. Mayors may need to require certain resources, or buildings are required within a node, or certain organization tasks need to be completed. Story arc chapters. Each chapter in a story arc can cause changes across the entire server, such as environments, monsters, NPCs, quests, and pathways. Players can progress a chapter by completing story arc quests within the time frame that each chapter is active. Phase timers are shown in the quest UI to indicate how much real-world time is available to complete the quests in each phase. If the player completes all quests in a particular chapter, they will need to wait until the next chapter to obtain further quests. Story arcs can branch into different stories with multiple endings depending on the objectives that player completes during each chapter. Story arcs can last for days, which reduces the pressure to log in daily to remain competitive. Most story arcs will repeat with a cooldown, but major story arcs will only occur one time. These can be replayed, but in a non-interactive way where any choices made do not impact the world. So they're thinking of a way to still be able to access those story arcs, maybe through a quest giver or some kind of system that you'd be able to see it later on. Some events will only be available while story arcs are in certain chapters, though. Storyline quests. Storyline quests can obtain objectives for each chapter of a story arc, and players can progress each chapter by completing story arc quests within the time frame that each chapter is active. Phase timers are shown in the quest UI to indicate how much real-world time is available to complete the quests in each phase. If the player completes all the quests in a particular chapter, they will need to wait until the next chapter to obtain further quests. These quest stages can be failed. The ability to retry a failed quest depends on the node progression. Quests may differ based on the stages of nearby nodes, seasonal influences, and events such as world bosses. Quests involving citizens from multiple nodes are unlocked based on the alliance and other relationships as well between the nodes and their progression. Epic and legendary quests. These affect the narrative of the game, and these quests will unlock gated content. There's not currently much information about epic or legendary quests, obviously because the game is in such an early stage, but I can almost guarantee these will be pretty epic and pretty legendary, so we'll be looking out for these. Server history. The history of each server will be tracked and visible to players in a node's library. Scribes may also be able to collect and record information about the events of the world as they see it from their point of view. Events. Events are things that can happen in Ashes of Creation as a result of the development in the world. There are several different types of events that are triggered due to certain conditions and predicates that are being met. Events that are scaled to fit local, regional, and global needs. Some events incorporate random story-driven interruptions to the normal flow of the world, such as blocking off specific roadways, having a random raid boss or mobs appear unexpectedly in a zone, and some may lead to wider consequences such as climate change, plagues, volcanic eruptions, forest fires, or other natural disasters. So there's some pretty big events that if you do not take care of them could have significant impact. There are events that lead to the spreading of corruption that players will have to fight back against. When these events occur, players will need to participate to keep the intrusion of the material plane back. Events that are taken care of successfully have positive consequences and provide rewards based on the contribution of players during the event. Events that reach a fail condition can have a negative consequence as well. Events have a cooldown in addition to predicates that are required to trigger them. If events are not triggered within a certain time period, they could occur randomly, and some events will only be available while story arcs are in certain chapters. There may be one-off events as well, and events do not target personal belongings such as freeholds, so you don't have to worry about them getting destroyed by an event. And events do not directly impact class effectiveness, but there may be ancillary effects in terms of availability of equipment, enchantments, or tattoos. Event types. There are a variety of different types of events that are triggered due to certain conditions, and those include calendar events, caravan events, monster coins, narrative, node attacks, point of interest events, PvP events, and world events. Monster coin events. Monster coins enable players to play as monsters within a monster coin system. This ranges from playing as a horde of zombies to becoming a massive dragon. Monster coin events are system-spawned events. They are structured in a way to prevent groups from gaming the system, and these events are triggered by an activity in the world such as node advancement, defeating a boss, or constructing certain type of buildings within the node. Server messages appear for players in the vicinity of these dynamic events. The player will have a number of potential objectives they can choose to attack during the event. This may include buildings, points of interest, dungeons, NPC, or other open world objectives. Drop tables are disabled for player-controlled monsters. Monster coins will only allow a character to participate in events on their own server, and NPC hate lists do not affect monster coin events. The Ancients are also not going to be a part of the monster coin system. Tasks. Tasks are quests without an excessive amount of text, and they refer to node-based objectives that are narrative-based. Tasks come and go in regional areas and react to the events in the world. PvP quests. There will be PvP quests in Ashes of Creation. A quote from Stephen Sharif. There are quests that interact with PvP. PvP is not a secondary component of the game. PvP is an equitable component of the game. Remember, we are a PvX game, which means that we emphasize both PvE questlines and story modes, and content as well as PvP. It is an intended design theory for Ashes of Creation that the world is not filled with just your friends. The world is also filled with adversaries, and because of that, we will provide opportunities to encourage social friction, and that may be in the form of those PvP-oriented questlines. Daily quests. Daily quests will not be prevalent in Ashes of Creation. There will not be any obligation to log in each day. There will likely not be any RNG-based quests. and they're focused around how changes in the world relate to the player's opportunities. Location matters due to the lack of fast travel. Grinding. Repetition will not be a part of the progression in Ashes of Creation. There will be no grindy quests, and there will not be repetitive quest lines through a single dungeon to obtain gear. The aspiration is to have more things to do in the game than the player has time to do them. So they're basically not going to make you have a quest that says go kill 1,000 monsters and then come back. They want to be able to design so much in the game and in the world that that's never even needed, because there's so much for you to do that you don't have enough time in the day to actually do it. Which is a good thing and a bad thing, some players would say. But I think having loads of content to do is great, because just all the different levels of player, right? You're going to have people who play these MMOs 12 hours a day, and you're going to have people that can only play an hour a day. And you can't balance it for everyone. So just turning up the dial to 11 and being able to have content for everyone is a good thing. Racial quests. Quests may be based on a character's race, and different quests may relate to who the primary contributor is to a node. This won't lock out content though, but will add flavor to those quests. And quests that are race-specific or title-specific or guild-specific will likely be less than 10% of the total number of quests, so 90% of the quests, will be available and shared by everybody. So you're not missing out on too much content. NPC races. NPCs will react differently to different character races. For example, elven NPCs may interact differently with humans compared to elves. Languages will be distinct between the NPC races and in the lore, and certain quest givers and NPCs may only present at nodes with certain cultural influences. So, depending on what the influences of a zone, you might have a certain quest giver pop up that doesn't actually pop up normally. Class-specific quests. There will be class-specific quests in Ashes of Creation, and those quests will be influenced by the character's progression via their choice of their primary and secondary archetype. So depending on how you build your class out will determine what these quests are that you actually get for class-specific quests. Solo quests. Ashes of Creation also provides gameplay options for solo-oriented players. Certain quest lines and hunting grounds are devoted towards solo players. Node citizenship and social organizations provide the ability to interact without strong bonds that typically come with guild-oriented organizations. Mechanics exist within a larger conflicts for small groups and solo players to impact the battle. This includes systems that will likely focus on single group-sized participants while the larger battle is occurring. Let's talk about voice acting. NPCs will have voice-acted audio greetings. Certain bosses and creatures will have voice lines along with other audio cues. And narrated quests are currently not planned for launch, but it has been stated that adding voice acting to the game at a later point will be a fairly cosmetic change. The use of AI voice acting is under consideration, but they're still, figuring that out and planning it out. My guess is they would most likely hire real voice actors if they wanted to do this, because they seem like the kind of company that wants to keep this game true to the roots. Mayoral commissions. These are simple type of quests with a singular objective that are able to be initiated by mayors, and they cost gold from the treasury for the mayor to initiate, and there are a limited number of commission slots available that can be set by the mayor at any time. Access to commissions is based on the node type, the location, and the building choices of that node. There will be a cap to the number of commissions that can be accepted by a single player, and completing the commissions will reward the node with commodities, rep, mandates, and temporary buffs to buildings. Players will receive experience, node rep, and currency along with other miscellaneous rewards. Mayoral commissions can be conducted by both citizens and non-citizens, and mayoral commissions are distinct from node commissions, which are system-generated commissions. System-driven caravans, also referred to as crest-driven caravans, are a system-spawned caravan that are used for both trade routes between nodes. These are initiated by players with a diverse choice of routes and launch windows, making them difficult to zerg. Initiating a caravan from one node to another will create a PvP objective that players can defend while it moves along the chosen route to the selected destination. Roads will upgrade as a node advances, and different roads will dictate the speed and type of caravan required via off-road or on-road. There's also mayoral caravans, and these are referred to as trade caravans, and they're launched by the mayors when you need to obtain resources from other nodes. Nodes answering these requests must have a trade agreement or alliance with the requesting node, and once the requesting mayor fills an order from another node, the driven caravan is spawned to transit the goods. Players can participate in helping defend the caravan if they wish, and these caravans can initiate world events. Escort quests. Escort quests will require different movement speeds based on the challenges being faced. Quests and reputation. Good actions such as participating in civilization building may result in character gaining positive node rep. Bad actions, such as failing quests, may result in gaining negative rep. This reputation is gained or lost on a per node basis. Excessive negative rep may cause a character to be deemed an enemy of the state, and negative rep may open certain quest lines that are darker, might give you a seedier side of the world that you're interested in. Certain NPCs and node vendors will react differently to the players based on their rep within the node or within the factions of that node. Node rep affects certain types of vendors, specific goods that they sell, and the pricing of those items. And NPC guards will kill corrupted players on sight. NPCs will add a player to their hate list if the player heals or buffs or assists any player on that hate list. Collection quests. There will be collection quests in Ashes of Creation. Quest sponsorship. Players can sponsor quests on a bulletin board. Removing player corruption. The player means to remove corruption is through death. Multiple deaths may be necessary to remove all your corruption. Dying removes a significant portion of the corruption score, but gaining experience will also slowly reduce that corruption score. A quest may be utilized to reduce the player kill count of a corrupt player in order for them to accommodate less corruption score in the future. This is a design shift from a religious quest being used to directly reduce corruption. Alrighty, ladies and gents, thank you guys for tuning in for another video about quests. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace!